La 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 la. Here we go. Hey,
Hi,
we're live. We're live.
welcome to another episode of the Live Clean and Fight Dirty show. As you saw in the title, what means more? A local tournament
La
or
la 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 la.
a world title? Tighter? Man, I messed up the title in the first 10 seconds of the intro. But what means more? A world title or a local tournament? So, if you start off in martial arts, maybe you will. It's very rare, unless you're Brock Lesnar, that you're just going to jump right in and start up with a world title shot. You're going to work your way up from somewhere. But maybe some of you won't make it to the top. Maybe some of you are just going to stay at a local tournament. What's more important? What weighs more in your martial arts journey? Well, who better to ask this than UFC coach John Hackelman as he breaks down this topic? We have a lot of different things to talk about. John, what's your thoughts?
Yeah. You know what I was thinking. I was thinking about like when Dana does he does the performance bonuses, and people wanted. He went from 50 grand, and remember UFC 300. They talked him into doing 300 grand for the for the bonus. You remember that? 300 grand just for the bonus. And then and then the next one, and then you had the which it was the Max Holloway brutal. I mean, that was such a beautiful fight. It's so exciting. But then he did that to the next one, and he went up to like 100 something thousand for a bonus, and they talked him into it. And he said after the fights, he's never doing that again because there was this is him, not me, but he was basically saying there were such shitty fights, the bonuses didn't help at all. And I mean, to be honest, some of the promoters, including Dana, used to. I don't know if he still does, but he'd come in the dress the in the locker rooms before the fight and get the guys riled up. Like, don't leave it up to the hands of the judges. Don't so that I mean, I never understood when he said that, and I don't think anybody that's ever fought can really say that because nobody wants to, but you got to realize you don't want to leave it up to the hands of the judges, but either does your opponent. So he's trying just as hard as you are to knock you out as you are to knocking him out. So a lot of times it comes down to a decision. So you can't not leave it up to the hands of the judges unless your opponent is going to say, "Okay, just hit me in the chin, knock me out. Then let's do it." They're not going to do that. They're fighting their heart out too. So a lot of times those fights will go the distance. So my whole point about this is what Dana said, the bonuses didn't help them fight any better. And that's true. Having somebody tell you before the fight, don't leave it up to the hands of the judges, that's not going to help you fight any harder. And you fighting to renew your contract, you're not going to fight any harder. In fact, I was thinking, it made me think back, like, I know a lot of world champion fighters that I've seen throughout the history of their fighting career, and they all, including Glover, they fought just as hard. They put just as much heart into every fight when they were fighting for 5 grand, or even before Chuck turned pro, he fought just as hard for a $2 medal than he did for millions of dollars, in a fight. And he fought just as hard. He was better, later, but my point is those aren't why fighters fight hard. They're not going to fight harder for a bonus than they will for a trophy, than they will to say they won the fight. They're going to fight just as hard. A fighter is going to fight just as hard, no matter how much he's getting paid. You know, and maybe a guy will maybe push a little harder if he thinks he's going to make more money. But at the end of the day, it all depends on how his opponent reacts. Because when it comes down to it, one guy might think, maybe I'll push a little harder for this bonus. But as soon as the guy shows them resistance, now it comes heart to heart, and that's what's going to make them fight harder anyway. You know what I mean? So at the end of the day, I would think the fighters are going to fight just as hard for a $2 medal than they will for a $300,000 bonus. And I mean, you watch some of these amateur fights. You watch some of the best boxing, and when I say best boxing, I don't mean most talented boxing. I mean the best fights, just like barn burners. You watch Channel 34 in LA. It's called Boxeo de Mundo. It's a Mexican boxing channel. These two guys could be like very, very below average records. They're not going to win any world titles. You know, this isn't Salvador Sanchez or, you know, Arturo Gat, nothing like that. These guys are just, you know, low level boxers. But when you put them together, they're trying to kill each other, and it makes the best fights ever. And if you gave them $1 million or $10 in gas money to get to the arena and back, they're going to fight just as hard either way. So that's why you got to realize a fighter is a fighter in his heart, you know. And the real fighters, I mean, a lot of them don't even need money. I mean, guys like you know, they came into this world with a lot of money. I heard that Cowboy Cerrone did. Nobody's ever going to say he's not one of the toughest, brawlingest fighters ever, you know. And Carlos Condit his father was a state something senator or something. I mean, he came from money too. One of the toughest, you know, ever. So I don't think money is is much of a motivator for people to fight their best. I don't think money's going to do it. I think they're going to do it because they're fighters. What do you think?
Well, there's a lot of different angles we can take this, but just going off of what you just said about how the fight is the fight. No one ever, and you see this in those light. I'm always beating the whole Kajikembo thing, but you see this in the Kajikembo world a lot. You know, the light contact. We're having a light contact tournament, but I can't. I've lost count of how many people I've seen knocked out in a light contact setting because two guys got together and just started at it. Like you said, nobody doesn't go into the fight not wanting to fight. Once you already signed that waiver, If you read that waiver, it'll really get in your head. You know, bodily. I let go of all bodily injury to death and all that. Instead of reading the fine print, then you go into your tournament, even if it's light contact. Once that ref says go, you go. So there's that mindset. Well, I mean, hopefully you have that mindset when you go in that you're not going to sit there and wait, you know, try to get an easy win. Now, the other angle about this, and we talked this about off camera. Now, if we're talking about the value of the world title versus the $2 medal, then we're going to have to talk about what's happening in jiu-jitsu and the different divisions and how essentially they'll sandbag you and you can become a multiple quote unquote world champion. And in Japan, they'll have these tournaments where you can enter the world championship. I'm not really sure how that works, but from my understanding and from what I've seen out here, and you know, maybe I'm wrong, direct me in the comments. And oh, by the way, I will address all your comments. You can sign up to a world tournament in Japan It might not be the worlds, right? The worlds has a different invitational, right? So different jiu-jitsu categories do have invitationals. We have a world championship and you must be invited. While there's other categories where you can enter a smaller world championship and walk away as a world champion. But what is that? Like, you didn't really, it's not like boxing where you went through like a committee and won all these fights and then went for a world title, or like the UFC where Dana makes a decision after so many fights, you go for a world title. It's more like that day, these people all get together and the person who wins that tournament gets the world title. So I don't know. I don't know what that is. Or you can be a multiple champion in multiple divisions. So you can go in. Let's just put the world title question to the side. You can go in as a white belt or a blue belt, enter the open nogi and gi, and walk away with 3 different gold medals. Sometimes, especially in Japan, for me, this has happened. Japanese people aren't known for being the biggest guys, so like I'm about 180 pounds, 185 pounds. My category is empty. Every time I competed, there was only like 2 guys there. It was really easy to place. So I always joked around with my students. Oh, that silver medal, that's a participation trophy. I lost. I lost, but there was nobody in the division, so they gave me a medal. So like that shit happens too. And I'll be honest and say it, but I don't know how honest. When people start putting a bunch of medals in their gym, I don't know how honest they are. But anyway, I'll hand this over to you. And what do you think about all that?
Yeah, I mean that's just a weird way. I think that it's not weird. It's a way for jujitsu guys, promoters, and instructors to get more students and more people entering, and then the students are happier because they're winning these tournaments. And there's 4 divisions, and every division has a champion in the same weight class, in the same weight, gi and no gi. I mean, you can walk away with like 8 trophies and you entered 2 divisions. But that's I mean, so but that's I mean kind of that's the jujitsu thing. But I think I'd be willing to bet that they're gonna try just as hard for each medal, and so they might you could have 5 gold medals and you'll say, wow, you enter 5 different divisions. He goes, no, that was just different brackets. There's 5 different brackets. No other sport that I know of does that. When I was fighting in the Golden Gloves, I mean, you got X amount of guys in a bracket, and the only guy to win gold was the guy that won the whole thing. So there was no winning a bracket just meant you went to the next, you fought the next guy in another bracket. It didn't mean you won a medal or anything. That's strictly a jujitsu thing. But as for the fighting the hardest, I could say that I bet they'll fight just as hard to win their, just to win one bracket than they would to fight for the grand champion. I think they will fight just as hard if they're a real fighter. I don't know, if they are or not, but that's what the point is. The point is whether you're fighting for a bracket or a world UFC title, say it was both MMA, you're gonna fight that fighter is gonna fight just as hard for a $2 medal, even though you can get 5 of them in your weight division, he'll still fight just as hard for that one division or that one bracket as he will for the entire world UFC title. And one could mean he'll make no money. He had to spend $100 to enter the tournament. And the other one, he's going to make, say $8 million. He's going to fight just as hard for either because he's a fighter. That's what fighters do. Right?
Another thing that happens, I saw this old footage of Tito Ortiz versus Hughes in a grappling match, and you can tell it was like before they made it. It's like it looked like a local gym. Looked like a basketball.
Weird sound coming through yours. It's like,
oh, can you hear me now? How about
I can hear you, but there's also a sound in the background when it's your turn to talk.
Oh, okay. Right now, your sound is coming in kind of fuzzy too, so I don't know what's. Either way, so I saw a old fight. It wasn't a fight. I'll tell you that right now. It was a grappling match between Matt Hughes and Tito Ortiz.
Yeah.
And it was like inside of a basketball gym. Like you can tell it was a local tournament. And going at it. I mean, it was grappling, but they were going at it. They were shirtless and they were going at it. You would minus the punches. I didn't notice any less intensity out of Tito Ortiz or Matt Hughes. And here's another thing, going back to what you said earlier. When you go to those local tournaments, you don't know who in those brackets is going to move on to fight at a world title one day. You never know when you're at those local tournaments or a smoker who's going to keep going at the level and who's going to end up at that world title, right? So you might end up actually bumping into someone who ends up going for the world title. So in a way, you fought someone who went for a world title, whether you lost or won. Going back to what you said earlier, the intensity was still there.
Yeah. So basically, yeah, a fighter's a fighter, and he's going to fight just as hard for a $2 medal as he will for a $10 million world championship. And that's why I don't think you have to motivate a fighter by offering him a bonus. I think it's great to do it. I think they deserve the bonus if they win it, but I don't think they're going to fight harder to get it. But I think they deserve it when they get it. And I don't think they're going to, I don't think, to leave it up to the judges, that comes from killer instinct, a fight, you're going to do that, go for the knockout, or you're not. And if you're not, a lot of people don't know how to go for the knockout. They don't have that sixth sense, that killer instinct to go for the knockout. You see some guys hurt their guy, and you can notice it on the screen because you're like watching it from a different angle, but you're thinking, why the fuck doesn't he just go after him? He's got him hurt. Because a lot of times they don't see through that lens. But then a lot do. You see someone like Chuck, when he tags someone, you see him just take one step or something. The other guy, he can tell it, just maybe he saw his eyes roll back a little bit, and then they go right for him. They know to finish him. So that killer instinct is very important. If you don't have good killer instinct, sometimes you might misread, somebody's stepping or movement, and you go in for the kill, and you get knocked out because you're an easy counter because you thought the guy was so badly hurt. Having a well-defined killer instinct is a very important quality to have. And most, if you make it to the UFC, pretty much you have all of your skills intact, including killer instinct and heart and conditioning, all that. Usually you have it all if you're going to make it to the UFC. Some have more than others, but all of them have it to a UFC level.
So looking at the comments, Mr. Allock asks, and he asked this earlier, early question, but I've always wanted to ask, could Godin really fight? I'm assuming so.
Yeah, from what I heard, he could, and I've seen him do things to people. I wouldn't really consider them a fight, but I've seen him hit people, and then they weren't able to fight. But I've never seen him like going back and forth with someone in a fight. I've seen him knock people out with one punch or a side hammer blow, something. I've seen him choke people out, but I've never seen him in a kind of fight where it'd be like matched up and they were going with each other. By the time I came in the picture, he was probably beyond that. I mean, he wasn't that old. I was still sparring and maybe even fighting when I was his age when I first joined. But yeah, I never saw him. I just always heard stories, and from what I've seen, he's very vicious. He was a vicious fighter, just by the fact that I've seen him, put people to sleep multiple times. So, yeah.
All right. The answer is most likely.
Yeah.
Looking at John Cox here, don't leave it up to the hands of the judges equals be recklessly offensive. Or no, be reckless offensively. Okay, I think I know what you're trying to say there.
Yeah. And when
Matt,
you do that, that's great and you're more exciting, but you're also more open for counters.
yeah, yeah. An exciting fight doesn't necessarily mean a safe fight for yourself.
Yeah.
Mac Trick, I'm training for the street. If a tournament or fight opportunity comes up as I improve, then I'm gonna take it. All right,
Who's that? Who is that?
Mac Trey. I'm training for the street. If a tournament
Good
or
luck. Good luck, brother. Good luck.
improve, then I'm
Good
gonna,
luck, and I hope you do well.
yeah, all the best for that. Yeah, take the opportunities that you get is what I got to say. Mr. Awak, I have a funny story about Charlie Murphy, who was in my class from a light contact tournament. I bet you do. uh, rest in peace, Charlie Murphy. You know who Charlie Murphy is, right?
No.
Charlie Murphy is Eddie Murphy's brother. He passed away. He's a comedian, a professional comedian. There's a long skit. Dave Chappelle did a long skit involving Charlie Murphy and Rick James, where Charlie Murphy tells a story about how he sidekicked Rick James during a late night party session. So if you don't know what that is, Google it. It's a great comedy skit. It's very funny to watch. But the story of Charlie Murphy is that he actually did. A lot of comedians verified that he did do like open karate tournaments, and and the joke that Charlie Murphy said was, or that Dave Chappelle said, are you doing karate with all them little kids?" So that was a tricky, but yeah, Charlie Murphy was known for doing the open karate tournament circuit back in the day. Mr. Alrock says, oh, Mitter 999 says, depends on the tournament. I suppose like only 3 people win in the Olympics. Yeah, that's true. You got silver, bronze, or gold. Mr. Arlock, we were at a tour. Okay, I see now. All right, so Mr. Arlock, sharing his story. We were at a tournament in a high school gym in the Bronx. You used to have to gauge what the judges would allow, but most of the hood tournaments would let you bang. Yeah, yep. I remember those. I wasn't in the Bronx. I was in the West Coast, but yeah, same kind of stuff happened.
I remember a tournament. I remember a tournament when I was young, and I didn't really enter that many point tournaments because I didn't like them. But Godin wanted me to enter this one, and it was more of a Shotokan based tournament. But you know, it was in Hawaii. They let me in, and he was telling me to punch in the face. He said, and they told me in the rules meeting, I had to be, I was probably 12, maybe 12 years old, maybe 13. But Godin told me, like you know, as soon as I got out after the rules meeting, he's like, "No, you punch him in the fucking face. Punch him in the fucking face." I was like, "Okay, that's your instructor telling you that." What do you, I mean, so I hit him in the face. I got disqualified, and Godin started yelling at the judge, calling him a pussy and saying all this shit. And he is like, why do we even enter that? That's their rules. I mean, they have their rules for a purpose. And I'm like, I mean, I'm just a kid. Of course, I'm gonna do what my instructor says, but it didn't make sense to me. It's like, why are we entering it if why don't we abide by their rules? So that's when I started doing boxing tournaments instead. And I could hit you're allowed to punch in the face then. But Godin would come in my corner, even though he wasn't a boxing trainer, never boxed or anything. But he would come in my corner. He loved it. Like when I came back to the corner, he'd give me the water. But I had a regular boxing trainer, and he was the one giving me instructions. But Godin loved being in the corner. In fact, I wish Godin was around when Chuck made it up or Glover made it up, whoever. He would have loved coming in the corner in the UFC. And we would have let him too. And we would have had him come in, but he was gone before then.
Punch him in the face. William John says, did both Murphy brothers box? I think their dad was a pro. I can't answer that. I'd have to Google that. Let me see.
I never heard that.
Did Eddie Murphy? Not seeing anything come up. Did Eddie Murphy boxing? Nah,
Yelling.
off the top of my head, I don't see anything coming up. So like, I'm gonna say most likely not. Now he did a movie where he boxed, so he had to do some boxing practice. But I don't see anything about his history coming up. All right, next question. Let me see here. Mr. Alex says Charlie was a brown. He's not done the story. Charlie was a brown belt fighting a black belt and Tang Sudo fighter who hit him with a spinning hook kick and split his lip. Damn. He looked at my instructor who gave him a nod and then he knocked him out cold with a ridge hand. All right. So that
bad reception or something.
Charlie was in the karate. I told him, sorry, just saying. So
can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Can you hear me? Oh.
I think you have bad reception right now.
Oh, there we go. It slowed down. Yeah, there was a cut. I can hear you though. Just your camera froze. Now you're gone. Now you're back. All right. I lost you for a second, but we've been streaming live the whole time. And your camera froze again. And now you're back.
Okay, there you go. I couldn't hear you. You were like,
I could hear you the whole time.
Oh, but I couldn't hear what you said. Okay.
So I'll go back to what I just said if you can still hear me. Mr. Alok said that he's sharing a story that Charlie was a brown belt fighting a black belt in Tang Sudo, and the Tang Sudo guy hit him with a spinning hook kick and split his lip. And then apparently Mr. Alok and Charlie Murphy were on the same fight team, and their instructor said gave him a nod, and then Charlie Murphy knocked the guy out cold with a ridge hand. Charlie had a hand from hell. I tried copying him and had my shoulder pop out. LMAO. I heard Joe Rogan telling a story about him telling Joe about his Chicago ridge hand. I had to laugh. Oh no, but Vermin Murphy and Charlie were the only two martial artists, both totally legit black belts and could fight before martial arts. Okay, so yeah, Mr. Alec has some history with the Murphy brothers in the karate circuit. So yeah, it was I heard as well. All right. Well, those are all the comments. I want to say this has been another episode of the Live Clean and Fight Dirty Show. One of these once a week at 5 o'clock Pacific Standard Time every Wednesday. Ask UFC coach John Hackelman your questions about martial arts or karate tournaments. Today we talked a lot about karate tournaments at the end. Anything you want. We always say that. You can check out lessons if you want to sign up and get a black belt in Hawaiian Kempo under John Hackelman. This can be done online at thepit.tv. Now, these are not your regular online courses. You're not just sitting there watching videos, clicking boxes. These are live classes that you are participating in, and you can ask your questions. So he's right there with you. I've seen it. I've seen the other side of the website and how it works. It's a great website. It's a great course. If you are hesitant, thinking, I don't know. I don't know if I want to sign up. I want to see what it's like first. Well, guess what? You can order the class.
Try it out.
Try it out. It's for less than 2 cups of coffee. You can try it out, and if you love it, then you can sign up. So check it out at thepit.tv. All right.